Hello, welcome. My name is Kenneth Page, and I'm here with Adulting 101 Org. I'd like to welcome you to our Safe Place Depression and Anxiety series. This is a three-part series where we really dig into the topic of depression and anxiety. We have the amazing Dr. Shahara Williams, also known as Dr. S, joining us today. Dr. S is a mindful meditations coach, and she's well known in the mental health and the mental wellness community. Now, in part one today, we really begin the subject by digging into anxiety. We separate good anxiety to bad anxiety, and then we learn different tools, tips, and strategies for responding to the bad anxiety in our lives. So please, this is going to be a great conversation, a great series. The whole series is phenomenal. We're dropping a lot of tools, gems, tips, and strategies that you can use to successfully navigate these things as they show up in your life. So grab some paper, some pen, something to write with, something to take notes on, and let's get started with this amazing conversation. When you hear depression and anxiety, what is it that comes to your mind when you hear those words?
I say depression and anxiety is like a state of mind to a lot of people, and I think, and it most definitely goes towards the negative side of depression and mind. I think depression is like the worst one though. I think it's worse than anxiety because depression is like it's just a state to where you don't want to do anything. You don't want to be around nobody. You want to be alone. You don't want to deal with anything. You could even act mean or like not want to mess with anybody. You could be mean towards others in a depression state. But I think anxiety is more like a nervous state where you're scared a little bit or you nervous to do a lot of things. Or like, for example, stage fright or like, singing in front of a lot of people, that could be anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think from my understanding, you hit that right on the head with what you see in depression and anxiety. Jordan, what about you? What comes to your mind when you think about depression and anxiety?
To me, depression is like when people just give up hope. They don't have a way out. They can't find it out. They're just stuck in a maze, finding dead ends.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety is when you're just there. You're just in that one spot. You can't make a move. It's like checkers. You just stuck there. You don't have another piece to move. And you're just stuck. You're stuck, and you don't know where to go. You're just nervous. Then you can't do anything about it.
Man, that is so true, man. When you said stuck, I imagine that scene. I know pretty much everyone's seen that movie Get Out. And when they talk about being when he was in that sunken place, he was just there, his body was there, but he was unresponsive to anything, afraid to move. That's the image that I got as you talked about being stuck in depression. That's absolutely very good. And the fact that y'all are, in high school and so knowledgeable about this already just goes to the importance of this conversation. I appreciate you sharing that. Let me jump over to you, Kalindra and Itiano. When you all hear depression and anxiety, what comes to your mind? What do you think about?
Depression, anxiety. I think about experiences that make anxiety grow on you. Like, we don't just get anxiety from out of the blue. We get anxiety from experiences that we haven't dealt with, and that's why we have this overcome of nervousness or fright, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that depression is the outcome of not dealing with anxiety.
That's good. That's good. Absolutely. And that was something actually powerful that you said in that when you talked about anxiety coming from, some experiences that we don't take the time to deal with. And I'm sure Dr. S will get into that a lot with us later on. But, I also believe that sometimes, depression and anxiety showing up in our life, not dealing with certain issues or aspects in our life, not confronting past trauma or tough situations, in my opinion, can certainly be the culprit of depression and anxiety showing up. And Tiana, what about you? When you think of depression and anxiety, what comes to your mind?
I feel like depression is like a box you can't escape. And it comes in when you talking or like you just trying to live life or trying to tell people, something not right, and it just starts like to grow on you. Or your emotions just get the best of you and kind of like knock you down.
Wow. I felt a chill as you said that. If I can be honest, Tiana, there was a issue in my life where I went through a period of depression. And when you talk about like that box you can't escape, it goes back to what Jordan said earlier about, just, give up on hope, just stuck. That's exactly what it feels like. It's like you're fighting, you're held down, it's almost like your emotions put you in that straitjacket and you're just immobilized, unable to move. But absolutely. Now let me jump over to Dr. S. Dr. S. Now you and I have had plenty of conversations about depression and anxiety. And I know we've also had, off-camera conversations about, this rise in suicide that we're seeing, especially now that COVID is here, young people dealing with an unimaginable amount of stress. And what shocks me is, the Malik, Jordan, Kalinger, and Tiana, they're all between the ages of 15 and 21. And when I was their age, I don't think I could articulate depression and anxiety to the degree that they have articulated it. Now that tells me two big things. One, it tells me that they are knowledgeable about it. And two, it tells me that they're certainly being exposed to it in one way or another, whether they're going through it themselves, whether they're witnessing their parents go through it, whether they have friends or somebody going through it. I want to ask you, based off all the responses you heard so far about kicking it off, what is depression and anxiety to you? And then what is some of your commentary back towards what they told us?
Right. I just want to definitely commend every one of you. Your answers, really spoke to your personalized experience or just what you know about it. And all of it stands true. It doesn't always have to have a clinical term, but all of that relates, whether it's a symptom or whether it's just something that you've experienced or even witnessed someone else experience. And so when I think about depression, I'm very transparent about my journey. I have suffered from depression for years. And now, I have my coping skills, anxiety, all of these things are a part of life. Let me tell you why I say that. We all get sad, right? And when we get sad, what happens is that does not mean that we're depressed. Depression comes when we are sad for long periods of time and your behavior begins to change. You may have suicidal thoughts or you want to give up on life. All of those are signs and symptoms of someone that's depressed. Now, when we come into anxiety, there is normal anxiety. Let me just show you how. If a bear was to come into your room right now, what would you do? Run. I know.
Out of there.
So we want our body to be triggered in that way of survival. But what happens with anxiety, we stay in that place as if we are being attacked by a bear all the time. And so that's where it causes the rapid heart rates, the sweaty palms, and, the anxious feelings. And so knowing that if you're not in a survival place, that you need to be more calm. And so when we experience anxiety, it can come from triggers. It can come from different things that you may be thinking. Even your thoughts can cause a sense of anxiety, anxiousness. We're more worried about what's going to come tomorrow rather than being fixated in the day. And so normalizing the fact that this does happen, but also normalizing the fact that it doesn't have to continue to happen.
Oh, what I think is really interesting, especially when she basically talked about a bear. Like the first instinct you got is to run.
Mm-hmm.
No second thoughts. There is no hesitating. The first instinct is to run.
Right.
No matter how you feel, like sad, angry, you're gonna have the first instinct to run because that's just how you feel. Like that's the first instinct.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're born and raised with the instinct. If something goes wrong, don't even ask what happened and just run.
Mm-hmm.
Even hesitate, just go.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go looking around, wondering why everybody running. Just run.
And look, I don't know if that's something with every community, but I know at least in the Black community, we see everybody running. We gonna run first and then figure out why later on. Right, we ain't gonna sit around and get caught up. When you talked about first instinct, that's interesting to me because Dr. S, you said that anxiety can be used for survival. It's good and it's bad. Using it for survival. Jordan, you talked about the instinct. That makes me think about in like regular life, especially if you're an athlete, if you got a job. A lot of times you're interacting with people. You just have this natural instinct to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, an audio book that I listened to, TD Jakes, he has the book called Instinct. That's really all about, learning to train and follow your instinct for the good of it. I guess the frightening thing about this is our instinct can do good for us,
Mm-hmm.
but when it's, I guess, seemingly unchecked, it kind of puts us in a loop, right? Now, I mean, so with anxiety, you described it as, being triggered. Sometimes it's coming on by our thoughts and whatnot. Kalindra, earlier you pointed to the fact that, anxiety can be treated, can be treated, can be addressed. Dr. Harris, I want to ask you, like, how do we handle anxiety? Well, one, how do we distinguish good anxiety from bad anxiety? And then what is the proper response to bad anxiety? Because it seems like the response to good anxiety is just to do what comes up. How do we deal with the bad anxiety?
Okay. That good anxiety or that elevated stress utilized for survival. If you're not in a survival mode, you shouldn't be what we call in a sympathetic state, which is fight or flight, right? And everything is heightened during the fight or flight, which a lot of times, well, most times is going to trigger some type of anxiety. But then when you have the other type of anxiety, the bad anxiety, that means that you studied all night and it's time to take a test and you haven't even seen any of the questions on the test, but you're already nervous. You already feel that, I don't forgot everything I studied. It's because you are literally in a cycle of anxiety, meaning that you're worried about situations that you haven't even approached yet. Like we're already worried about who's going to win the football game. Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to, be on top of my game? All of these things that we naturally do, but it raises and it puts us in a place of anxiety because we're already worried about what's to come rather than making sure that we're prepared in the now. And so when we get into coping skills, one of the things that I love to share with my clients is saying, I am here right now and I am present. I am here right now and I am present. Bringing it back to this moment. You cannot control the next moment. You can only control it moment by moment. That's why breath work is so important. But using, a mindset. You know what? I prepared for this football game. I'm a test, so I'm going to stay in this moment and I'm going to do my best on the test. And that's how you kind of combat anxiety, by staying in the moment, taking some deep breaths and realizing I am here right now and I am present in this moment.
So, when you're in sophomore, you're in school, do you ever see like anxiety going on in your friends around you?
Yeah.
How do you notice that they're going through it?
Because they'll be like feeling themselves, so they'll be like breathing real fast. Or they'll just be like, I just can't do this right now. Like, I just don't want to deal with this. They'll basically like tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's interesting. Malik, same question to you. Have you ever noticed any things of anxiety in the friends around you?
Sometimes like I mostly see it around like athletes or some students, but like I know I've like younger guys, younger than me, maybe their first high school game or moving up to varsity, playing with older guys. I can see the anxiety in their eyes being younger. They're ready to be on the next stage to play with older guys, but like Miss S said, how I'm gonna do in this game, how I'm gonna feel, am I gonna make this play right? I know a lot of guys are in that fear of mind or like, am I gonna do things right? And I just, I just stand right there with them, be like, man, this is all it is. Like, just take a deep breath, go take a knee in the end zone, go pray about it. You know what I'm saying? Just like go be in that state of your mind to make yourself comfortable. Or like what I like to do is like bump against my guys before the game to get that first hit, that first feeling, contact, because if in the game, other guys they come hit you. They don't know who you really are. They don't care what your name is. So you want to get that feeling out of the way. Go ahead, hit up with somebody, get that first contact over with, so you can be comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's man, what you said, one of the reasons, I'm a football coach, I'm biased against it. One of the reasons I've always enjoyed coaching football is because I think there's a lot of things that you can learn in that arena of football that you can actually take into life. And what you talked about was specifically some of the coping skills that Dr. S just talked about with regards to anxiety, being in the moment, being assertive, taking charge and taking control. Dr. S, it seems to me that with anxiety, there's two major emotions or things that I'm noticing popping up in this conversation of anxiety. One is usually some type of response to fear.
Mm-hmm.
And two, that is also wrapped up in uncertainty.
Yes.
So there's a level of fear and uncertainty that we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And fear is definitely a trigger. Uncertainty is definitely, a trigger. It's just something about the unknown that can definitely, throw you over into, being very anxious. That's why, again, you have to have, that good mental space where you can talk yourself down, doing the breath work, like I say, sometimes taking a walk, and so all of these things are definitely what we consider as triggers. When we get fearful about something, sometimes fear come out as anger, right? anxiety sometimes can come out as anger as well. So a person may not necessarily be angry, they may just be anxious, they may just be fearful, but that's how they are responding. And so, various ways, everyone has triggers. I know for me, they call it also PTSD. I was in a really bad car accident. And so sometimes when I'm driving, I jump. Or if a car gets too close, I started being a little anxious. That's only because it's triggers. And that's why we have to learn our triggers so that we can deal with them in a healthier way. So it won't, put us back into that, anxiety, I guess space, if that makes sense.
I got into a car accident before, and I got knocked unconscious. I had a hemorrhage on my brain,
Oh my goodness.
and I was afraid to drive. Now, it lasted for like 2 weeks. Then I kind of snapped out of it. I like driving, but I understood that because the whole time I'm in the car, and I'm just like, because it shocked me because normally I feel in control when I'm driving. But I got in that accident because my tires hit some ice and I had absolutely no control.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I got behind the wheel, and even though it had warmed up, I'm still driving around with the fear of like, what happens if I lose control again?
Yeah.
What happens if I think I got the steering wheel in my hand and the car goes where I turn it, but I hit that patch of ice and now I'm not going where I steer.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that was a continuing emotion.
When we
But
control things, that can also trigger a sense of anxiety, and that can be with people, places, or things. It can trigger some sense of anxiety if someone is doing something you can't control them. It may a lot of times show up as anger, but it can also trigger, that anxiety.
a big word, we're going to come back to that, control. Okay, let me write, because I want to make sure we talk about that word, control. Actually, Kalindra, I know you got into an accident not too long ago. Did you experience any, post anxiety because of that?
Yeah, I think my family was pretty good about getting me in a car like literally the same night of my wreck. So it wasn't that I was afraid to drive, but getting in situations where, because like since my wreck, I've probably been in the same sort of situation probably about 3 or 4 times. My wreck was only a few months ago. So being in a position where I got hit, where someone is too close to me, or they're riding on top of the line, or if I have to be in the car for a long period of time and I know this could happen, definitely makes me anxious. I had a friend who recommended a meditation video to me. So what's helped is, like Dr. S was saying, was being in the right now. And also coming back to the whole control word. In the meditation video, the person said, you have to remember that I am in control. I'm in this moment, and just bring yourself back to that, level playing field. It definitely helps me calm myself down.
Good.
Mhm. Malik, when she was talking about that, calming yourself down, putting yourself in control, when you talked about, the anxiety that comes up while you're playing football, it kind of seems like that's exactly what you're doing, especially when you talked about, I'm going to go deliver the first hit to take that control. Is that kind of how it registers in your head when you're doing that?
Yeah, so like I guess whenever I got used to loving the contact of football and knowing that I was older than these other guys I was playing against, and knowing that, well, I've been playing this game longer than this other person that's on the field, so I should be the one that should take, dominance. I was feeling more confident in myself, and I wasn't as anxious before a game. So, like I said, I was really trying to be a leader for other guys. So I couldn't be anxious as much. I had to go ahead and be ready for the game. But I can tell you right now, me going into this next stage of college, about to play college ball, I am a little bit anxious playing with like 20-year-olds and really like older guys that's been playing for so long. And these guys are like hard hitters. They playing on TV and their mama watching them. So that, I mean, it's really about to be a different change for me because I played high school ball. They've been playing college ball and they've been hitting older guys, and I'm gonna have to get used to that. So I'm a little bit nervous, I guess, anxious, you could say, to go against older guys, but I'm ready.
Yeah, and that's a good attitude. Say, I have what it takes. I have. Sometimes it becomes a mental stimulation by simply saying they may be big, they may be experienced, but here I am. There's one on that team like, so I am ready to go forward, and I have what. And sometimes, you know, those mental stimulations, it's all about as well how you talk to yourself. So I love that last comment that you made. Like, I'm gonna go at it and I'm gonna show up. So that's a good place to be.
Yes, ma'am.
You said something good there. You said, you know, because you talked earlier about talking yourself through stuff, talking it down, and you pointed out how much you appreciate the way Malik talked to himself. When we talk about talking to ourselves, I feel like when you say talk to yourself, most people imagine, you know, am I being crazy? Hey, KP, what's up, bro? How you doing? I don't think it's like that all the time. Oh, what you about to say, Malik?
So I was gonna say, well, what you gotta first realize, I guess, with anxiety. I've never really been through depression, but like I think the biggest thing with anxiety is you gotta admit to yourself what's wrong, like what is going on with you personally. Like you gotta admit it. Like, well, I'm feeling nervous about this. I'm gonna be like, well, I'm just feeling nervous. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I'm scared to go play against these guys, and I just gotta admit that to yourself. Because if you don't, then you just gonna be holding that on yourself the whole time. So you might as well just get it out the way, this and that. If you're getting knocked on your butt, then that's it. You move on and you learn from your mistakes.
That is so good. Identification is definitely one of the things that, you know, I walk my clients through. You first have to, you know, so that you can respond to the trigger. And so that's very healthy talk. I love that.
And healthy talk. No, Dr. S, talking to yourself is how when we consider the thoughts that run through our head, how synonymous is that with audibly talking to ourselves? Is there a difference between me saying I can do this and me thinking it?
Well, you know, I have this saying, your body hears everything that you're thinking. And when your body hears everything that you're thinking, you're going to respond accordingly. And so if you know you are at a place where you're constantly talking negative and down on yourself, that's a high indication that you need to seek some type of help, right? Because we should be our first advocate. We should be the person that is our biggest cheerleader. And that is a kind of a healthy mindset. And if you can't do that on a consistent basis, that's when you need to get outside resources. Because again, and that's how suicidal thoughts is the thoughts that you continue to play in your mind. And if it's not healthy, you begin to allow it to consume you. And now you're more likely to act on, you know, or feeling like your life doesn't matter. So we have to talk to ourselves, but we have to make sure that we're talking to ourselves in a healthy way.
All right, so Kalendra, you've gone through high school. You went through the stress and the pressures and anxieties of like getting into college. You know, now you're going through college, about to step out in the real world. I want to ask you two questions. All right. One, when you were going through that period, your senior year in high school, looking to get into college, one, how much anxiety did you go through in that moment? And then the next question after that is the things that you were anxious about, how did they actually turn out to be once you got there?
Okay, that's a good question. I feel like when you are senior in high school, there's a lot of pressure on you to be accepted by all these schools. Personally, I'm a first generation college student, so I didn't really have someone to tell me like, this is what's important in the school. When you're looking for a community, you know, this is what we're looking for. How much is books gonna cost me? Tuition gonna run me? How much should I not take in student loans and stuff like that? So really, my anxiety came from educating myself and making sure that what I was educating myself on was enough to get to college and stay there and be financially stable to stay there. And I mean, as I did the research and I asked more questions, I began to be less anxious because I realized it is a huge deal, but it's not all at the same time. If you want to get to a place and you work to get to that place, it's going to fall in line as it should, as long as you put the effort there. So when I did actually get into school and understood what it was to, you know, pay tuition and have books and declare my major and revamping studying and all this other stuff, I mean, it worked out. When you go and you seek for answers, you're going to find those answers. You just have to be willing to put the work in. So
Absolutely.
it all worked out.
Yeah, it is. Did you ever, after going through it, did you ever look back and like, man, I wasted my time being anxious about this?
All the time. All the time. Applying to all these different schools that I really didn't even care about. And just to get to the place where I always thought that I would be. And I was cool with it. It's helped me grow. So, yeah, definitely. It's not worth stressing about. Just put in the work and everything will work as it should.
And KP, I want to add to that. I remember being in school. I was in school for 10 years straight, and I've done some post things after that. But one of the things I had really, really bad test anxiety. I would literally study all night and get to the test and forget everything. And especially in undergrad. But as I began to maneuver and and go higher education, I had to ask myself this: is it really a failure or is it a lesson? There's really, we can look at the change our perspective. Perspective is everything, because if you have the wrong perspective, you will stay with anxiety, you will stay sad, you will stay down in the dumps. So I had to ask myself, is it really a failure or is it a lesson? Because what did you learn? Say, for instance, you didn't do as well as you wanted to do, whether it's playing football, whether it's taking a test, whatever it is. Okay, you didn't do as well as you wanted to. Now you have to take a moment and ask yourself, what did I learn from that? So I can carry it into my next play or into my next game or into my next test. So it's really not a failure, it's a lesson. And that kind of helped me with my anxiety to realize if I go in here, I'm going to give my best. If I don't get the outcome I want initially, hey, don't beat yourself up about it. Get the lesson, understand why you missed it, and go back and do it again. Perspective.
Perspective is a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
But yeah, I can say I've had like the stage of anxiety a little bit going through this college phase. Definitely with like the biggest fear, not a biggest fear, but like because I knew I put in the hard work for 4 years playing football in high school, I think one of the biggest like anxieties was any college is we're gonna look at me or give me a chance to play on the next level, and it was taking so long at the football season. I'm like, oh man, like did I put enough work in on the film that I made, or is my GPA good enough, and I working harder on the field enough, and then when that started happening, when the first school came to me and was talking to me, I was like, well, okay. I see like somebody's out there actually looking at me. Then there was the next, like 2 more other schools come in, then 4, then 5. So, my anxiety just like left. And, it's more like I was more, what's the word?
Confident.
Yeah, confident. I was more confident in myself that I was capable of playing on the next level.
Mm-hmm.
The next day was like, gosh, how I'm gonna deal with all this stuff in college, how I'm gonna stay organized and planned. And I was like, well, I'm a little anxious, but I know at the same time, I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm ready for the next stage, but I'm like, there's gonna be nervousness there, but I know I'm gonna get used to it all right away.
So that's kind of like that demonstration of kind of like that good anxiety, right? So it's like I'm anxious because I'm ready, I prepared myself, and I'm ready to go forward. So it's nothing, to the place where usually anxiety, gram of anxiety, it brings you down, it makes you scared and fearful. But then you have that anxiety, like I'm ready, and so again, a great demonstration of the difference between the two.
So yeah, I can say I really have a lot of good anxiety about things. It's a good nervousness, and I think that's a very good thing because having a good anxiety means that you are like positive about it. You're not because if it was negative, then that comes into fear, and then you're scared. And I don't want to be scared about the process of going into college because then if you fear or scared of it, then you're really not going to do well because you're not ready for the challenge that life is going to bring to you.
Yeah. Perspective. I love that.
Respect. And this I felt like now that Dr. S and now that we went to school, we graduated, we got out, and we've gotten through life, I think it's easy to forget like how anxious of a time that really is for high school students. Because we place this huge importance on, and it really is, what you do after you graduate high school. You're going to go to work, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to the military. So there is a lot of anxiety wrapped up into that. And then, you're in school, you're competing, you get your GPA, your grades, community service, all sorts of those things. It's really, it gets really heavy.
Yeah.
Now, Itiana and Jordan, as sophomores and freshmen in high school, have y'all started to, feel the anxiety? Because I know when you get like a junior or senior, you're thinking about college. Jordan and Itiana, like, do y'all deal with the anxieties of wondering, what college is going to be like? Or what are some of the anxious points for you all right now?
Well, the first thing I have to say is I never really have anxiety or like nervousness about it, but the thing I have nervousness about, what will happen when I get there? Will I mess up? What will I do? What will I do? And that's the only thing I have a fear about is having a fear of failing, knowing if I don't succeed, what do I do then?
Mm-hmm. Man, I think Dr. S just gave us a great perspective for the fear of failure part. Is it failure or is it a lesson? I want to tell you, personally, I think failure signifies a final moment, meaning that you don't fail until you quit going. If you keep walking, you're not failing. Big point Kalindra made earlier about, if you just continue to walk towards something, just continue to move towards it, you're going to get there. But I certainly understand. And I kind of, I want to speak to the fear aspect of it a little bit or the fear of failure, the fear of messing things up. When you talk about perspective, I think sometimes when we meet, a situation that seems like failure, it messes up because we never expect any things to go wrong. But the reality of life is so many things are going to go wrong, and it's just about learning how to respond to it. I like the way NASA talks about what it takes to get their satellites to a particular point. It'll be on track and on a course, and they're just constantly correcting it to get it to its destination. It's constantly technically going the wrong way, and they have to just keep making adjustments to that failure. Dr. S, I think you was about to jump in.
You said earlier, there is so much that can go wrong. And then on the other spectrum, there is so much that can go right? Again, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? And so again, it's all about, we're all going to face adversity and run against obstacles in life. So we might as well get that in our head. And so once we realize that, it's all about how we respond to the situation. Every situation is going to have a consequence. It's going to be a good one, or a lesson. Because I don't even like to deem it as bad. It's a lesson. And so we have to then make a conscious choice. How do I want to respond to it? Do I want to sit here and internalize knowing that, hey, I'm getting ready to go off to college. I'm sitting here trying to fill out these applications. It's okay if I reach out for help because I'm getting overwhelmed. So it's all about making the choices that's going to help you to not be so easy to give over your peace. Does that make sense?
Make the choices that don't give away your peace so easily. Wow, what a final message that Dr. S left us with. Thank you at home so much for joining us on this great conversation today. We really dug into anxiety. We defined anxiety. We talked about good anxiety versus bad anxiety, how to use the good anxiety to benefit our lives, and how to respond to bad anxiety. We also talked about healthy and unhealthy thoughts, and we also talked about dealing with the uncertainty in our lives. This was an amazing conversation. I learned a lot. I got a lot out of it. So I know that you at home, you learned a lot and you got a lot out of this conversation too. Now, I want to remind you that this is part 1 of a 3-part series. So make sure you come back next week and finish catching this amazing conversation with Dr. S as we dig deeper into the subject of depression and anxiety and how to deal with it in our lives. Now that we've finished part 1, there's a couple of things that I'd like you to do. The first thing that you need to do is go through a period of reflection. What I mean by that is go back, look at the notes that you took, think about the parts of the video that really spoke to you, that really connected with you, and think on these things. They didn't come up for no reason. Because the next thing that I need you to do is find a place of application. Taking the things that we learn and learning how to apply those into our lives. Because we want to learn how to better navigate our lives to achieve the things that we need to achieve and be the people that we need to be. Now, after some reflection and application, the next thing I need you to do is share this video. If you learned something, if you got something out of it, let's not hold that information into ourselves. Let's share it with a friend, a family member, a loved one, anyone that we think can benefit from this information as well. Now, if you enjoyed learning from Dr. S and you like to reach out to her and learn more things, you can reach her. You can find her contact information in the credits of this video. She'd absolutely love to hear from you. You can also find the contact information for Adulting 101 org. Here at Adulting 101, we would absolutely love to hear from you. You can contact us. We have social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. The handle is Adulting 101 org. And when you interact with us, use the hashtag #DoAdulting. Now, if you support the mission of what Adulting 101 org is doing, as we're learning to teach the next generation how to better navigate life, please sow into us, please donate. You can donate through our Cash App, $DoAdulting, or you can go to the website, www.doadulting.org, and you'll find more ways to give. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and be sure you can come back next week as we finish this 3-part series, Safe Place, Depression and Anxiety. Have a great day.